What's up YouTube, Jeff back again from DopeTechDaily.com. Today I'm bringing you guys my 1 week impressions of the Samsung Galaxy Tab S4. Now I got this tablet last week. I picked it up from Best Buy. This is the 64GB black model, which will run you $650 plus tax, so just over 700 bucks here in the US. You do get included in there the S Pen, of course, which is a nice thing, and the wall and USB charger. I want to run down some of the things that I've experienced in using the tablet over the last week, talk about whether or not I think this might be a good value. I will have a comparison to the iPad Pro, which I know a lot of people have been asking about, whether or not it would be worth getting this over the iPad, etc. So first, let's talk a little bit about the new form factor. The resolution has changed. The tablet is now a 10.5-inch tablet. It is 2560 by 1600 in its resolution, which of course would suggest to us that they want you to use this tablet using landscape mode, which is not really the way that the Tab S2 and the Tab S3 were intended to be used. But the Tab S4 is really intended to be used in landscape mode like this. That's how Samsung sort of set up the resolution. Now, in addition to the new resolution, of course, we also have smaller bezels. The bezels are now pretty much symmetric around the outside of the tablet. You'll notice here the side and the top and bottom bezels are symmetric. That was enabled by removing the fingerprint scanner, which was at the bottom of the tablet on the Tab S2 and the Tab S3. If you had one of those devices, you know that that forced the bottom bezel to be pretty chunky. That's now gone. So now, of course, in order to actually get into the tablet, you're going to have facial recognition or iris scanning or a combination of the two. Obviously, it's a little different to unlock behind the camera, but it does work very well overall. I haven't noticed any issues. It's using the intelligent scan method, which combines your face and the iris data to unlock as quickly as possible. I haven't really noticed any issues. Of course, I still prefer a fingerprint scanner. That's just me. Now you do have on-screen buttons here, very similar to what you would see on a Galaxy S9, S9 Plus, or the Galaxy Note 9. So the form factor has definitely changed around front with these symmetric bezels, and I think it's very pleasing to the eye, and of course, it does make the tablet better for media. Now on the back, it looks very similar to the Galaxy Tab S3. If you just look at the back, you wouldn't really know that a whole lot has changed. Of course, it's bigger just because the tablet has a bigger size. It says Samsung on the back. It has a glossy black back with glass, tuned by AKG, the speakers, of course. One thing I will say about the back is it's kind of hard to tell here because I always wipe down my devices before my videos, but you can even see fingerprints. This oleophobic coating that's on the back glass of the Samsung tablets is not very good. It attracts fingerprints very, very quickly, and it's one of the reasons I don't like having a glass back on tablets. Personally, I prefer having a metal back like the iPad. I'm not an Apple user, so that's not a bias really towards Apple. It's just a bias towards the material. I get fingerprints all over this, even more so on the back sometimes than on the front of the tablet. So that's the build. Everything else pretty much the same. You've got your speakers here, of course. You've got your charging port. Of course, you have a headphone jack, which is great to see these days. And of course, you also have speakers here on the top and the bottom. So you've got speakers all the way around the device, and the speakers in general sound very good. You do have your power button and your volume rocker on this side as well. So let's talk a little bit about the usability. A couple of things that are concerning with this tablet to me is that Samsung, as usual, decided to go with an older generation processor, Snapdragon 835, and they also went with 4 gigs of RAM, where they're putting 6 gigs of RAM or even 8 gigs of RAM in their flagship phones these days. Now that may not seem like a huge problem, of course, because you're not handling phone calls and a lot of other things you might handle on the phone, but if you're really interested in the multitasking aspect of the Galaxy Tab S4, then having that extra RAM would really help, and I have noticed that in multitasking situations, if you're going to use multi-window, things like that, of course, which is one of the main features of having a Samsung tablet, is the great multitasking capability. If you're going to use something like that, it really is great to have that extra RAM, and I wish Samsung would have included 6 gigs of RAM. Having the Snapdragon 835 is not as big of a deal as having the 4 gigs of RAM. The Snapdragon 845 certainly would have helped, especially for those of you that are gamers, but it's not really the hugest deal from my perspective. I think the RAM is a much bigger deal. Now the S Pen. The S Pen has changed in terms of its form factor. You guys can get a look at it. Actually, let me turn the screen off so it will focus on the S Pen a little bit here. So you guys can get a look at the new S Pen here. It's got a more rounded sort of feel to it. that actually makes it feel more like a pen or a pencil in your hand. You can still see the same tips there. It does come with some replacement tips in the box. And of course, you've got your button right here to use the air command when you actually use it with a tablet. So in terms of the actual use, the use of the S Pen is pretty much the same as what you've seen on the Galaxy Tab S3 or even on the Galaxy Note 8 last year. There is no Bluetooth functionality like on the new Galaxy Note 9. I wish that had been included because, you know, that would really add some extra value to the tablet in my opinion. You still got pretty much the same options over here. You've got live message, of course. You can add your own custom shortcuts, which I've done here with Dropbox, Google Keep, and Photos. But pretty much the same settings in terms of the S Pen. It does feel a lot better writing with this particular S Pen. It does seem more precise. So if you're into taking a lot of notes with your tablet, if you're a student, or you're going to use it for drawing or something like that, I definitely think the refinement of the S Pen is worth it in that sense. Software, pretty much the same Samsung experience you're used to on their phones. Again, the 4 gigs of RAM kind of gets in the way a little bit because the skin is kind of heavy. You will notice a little bit of lag here or there if you're going to do a lot of multitasking on the device. Battery life, been pretty good. This has a pretty reasonably large battery in it. I have no problems with battery life on it. Pretty similar to my iPad Pro. I used it for a full cycle and got about 12 hours screen on time. That's pretty good. I was using it for taking some notes for my lectures, preparing for the semester, browsing social media. I try to do as much multitasking as I can, even though I don't use my tablet in that way all the time. I tried to use it that way for my first charge cycle just to give you guys some feedback. Like I said, the speakers are very, very nice. They're very similar sounding to the iPad Pro. I will do a full comparison between the iPad Pro and the Tab S4, so definitely stay tuned for that if you want to see how the speakers here compared to the speakers on the iPad Pro. The screen on this device, overall, very, very good within the Samsung AMOLED screen. I do wish it had 120 Hertz like the iPad Pro. I've really gotten used to that. The smoothness that you get in scrolling and just navigating around the UI when you have the 120 Hertz display really does make a huge difference in my opinion. Obviously the Samsung display though in terms of brightness, color saturation, all those other things is fantastic. And it is a great device for viewing media. So if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, things like that, you're definitely going to get some very good experience when it comes to viewing videos in landscape. And you'll notice that if you're watching videos on this tablet as compared to the iPad Pro, the black bars that you're going to notice on the sides, they're very minimal here on the top and the bottom. Instead of on the iPad Pro, they're kind of obvious and sometimes a little annoying. I definitely prefer the media viewing experience here on the Galaxy Tab S4.
The green box, you have 50 cards per box. You're getting these exclusive 3.
And there you can kind of hear how loud the speakers are in the media setting at least. Very good overall. I've been pretty impressed with the Tab S4 as a media viewing machine. Now the other thing that of course the Tab S4 does boast is the ability for standalone Dex capability, which is something that the Note 9 is also going to offer. If you want to hook this up to a monitor and use it basically as a computer with a keyboard and mouse, you no longer need the Dex station. All you need is a cable basically to plug this in via HDMI to your monitor, and then you'll be able to use Dex. So that's a big advantage for a lot of people. Admittedly, I haven't tested that out yet. That's going to be the next thing that I look at is using Dex on the Tab S4 along with the Note 9 because I have one coming in this week and see how that functionality works. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same Dex experience that I've talked about with the Dex docking station, which I do have one and I've used numerous times. But now you don't have to buy the docking station, which certainly makes it more convenient and it makes it possible to use this tablet as a laptop replacement. Anyway, overall, I think the value is good, but I think the price is still a bit high at $650. Personally, the pricing somewhere around maybe $550 would be a little bit nicer. I know they're trying to compete going with the iPad sort of blow for blow, but at the end of the day, there still aren't as many Android-optimized apps for tablets, and some other issues like software updates on Android tablets tend to hang even longer than software updates on the phones. So that's another huge problem when sinking $650 into a tablet like this. But the hardware is definitely premium, and if you're going to use it for productivity, for Dex, and definitely if you're going to use a lot for media viewing, it's something that you might consider if you're a huge Android fan. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification icon so I can make future videos like this. Still have a couple more videos coming up with the Tab S4 and then a whole bunch of Galaxy Note 9 coverage this week. You guys can find me at dopetechdaily.com, Google+, Instagram, and Twitter. The links in the description. Appreciate you guys checking it out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.